Hi and welcome to this video. So today we're going to do a lesson number 3 in Fusion 360 for 3D printing. As you might have seen on social media, on my Twitter and so on, I'm actually using a Ultimaker 3 right now together with a BNC Sigma and also like Flashforce Dreamers and so on, all printers with dual extrusion. So as some of you might know, when you're doing a dual extrusion model, you want to have two STL files, so one A and one B, or one zero extruder and one the first extruder. Anyway, you want to have two separate STL files. So to be able to create that or to model for those kind of scenarios, I want to show you the basics of more or less Boolean operations. So you create a model and you cut away the things that you want to keep. So for example, I'll do just some simple explaining how it works, and then I'm going to do a practical example. But I also want to do my handles for the DSLR camera rig that I've been doing. So I want to combine a hard material for the part that I screw onto the rods, and then I want to have soft materials for the actual grips. So what do you say? Let's get on with the first basic steps of Fusion 360 and with some dual extrusion. Alright, so as you can see, I kind of changed shirt and everything. While editing this, I realized that I had put it a little bit too small, so I wanted to enlarge the screen so you can see it much more easy on the screen itself. So, dual extrusion. So we need to have two STL files, and that's really important that all the current slicers that I know of, they take a separate STL file for each color or material that you want to use. In some cases you can use like support materials and infill and such and divide it by that parts. But when you want to design something, for example in Fusion 360, you want to do it so you can export it in two STL parts. And for most cases I find that you can do it by Boolean operations, which means that we take one part, we cut away another, and we have a result of two parts and two working bodies more or less. So let's start off with that. Let's start off with doing it simple. So how do we do two STL files from the same model or using interlocking mechanics and so on? So just normal basics. I've shown you these before. You can create a model. So let's create a box, for example, because boxes are really cool. So here we have a box. And this box now is, of course, in one material. It's one solid, one body here. Now, if we want to have, for example, let's just make something easy. Let's say that we want to have two eyes on this box. So we want to have something that is, well, something that is another color. So what we need to do is to create a, you can select both of these sketches, by the way. I will extrude them. I will extrude them inwards, and I will create a new body. And the reason for this is because I want to have a file in here. So I'll explain a little bit more just in a second or so. So I'll click OK. As you can see now here in my body list, I have the two holes as well. But if I hide those, I still have the whole box. Now I'm going to go one step behind. So I've now removed everything. I will do this again. Watch now if I use another function here. So I use, instead of I do the cut tool, I do intersect, for example. Now I will only keep the parts that are intersected. Intersected. That's what it's called. Sorry, I can't bend the English. So you only end up with the parts that are overlapping, which means that we only get the cylinders because that's the only part that is overlapping. But just watch here when I continue to extrude them. So I'm extruding, and of the part, there's still nothing more overlapping. So even if I extrude more, nothing more will end up in the end result. So that's not the way we want to do it either. What we could do is to make, and this is the complicated way, it only works in this scenario. I could cut away and then do a new extrusion and extrude all the way, but instead of joining, I just want to make a new body. So that could work in that case, because now we have two bodies here. which I can hide, and we still have holes for them. But that's not the good way. So what I want to show you is how we create this using a different mindset. So again, what we want to create, and I want to create, for example, these two, and we'll extrude them, and we'll, what I'm doing now, not degrees. So we'll extrude them here, we'll make a new part, a new body. So we now have these bodies and this one here. So what I can want to do now is I'll take the biggest one, so the one that we want to cut away into, and I'll then go to modify, I'll go to combine, I will then use the tools, sorry I'm hiding the tools here for you. I use the tool here that is cut, but what's really important is that you keep the tools, so that's what we want to do. So we have our target body, which is the blue one, and then we have our tool bodies, which are these two. So they will now cut away, I am keeping the tools, I click OK, and I end up with the same scenario where I have a hole, but I also have the two files here. Now what you can do is here, you can create a component from these two bodies, or actually I wanted to create one component, but I can export, I should be able to export, well what I can do here is I can do like this, I'll just drag that body into there, into that component, I'll remove this component. I shouldn't have both of them selected. The reason I'm doing this is because now I have a single component that I can save as an STL file. Otherwise, in Fusion, it doesn't want to allow you to take, for example, two STL files and export it as one. So this means that I had to export these two as two STL files, and I then need a third one as the base. So you never want to do this. Remember this, though, if you have things that are not together, for example, if you do a Viking ship and you want all the different cannons to be in a different STL files, you need to have them stick together so that Fusion can export as one part. But what you can do is you create a component and you collect all of those bodies into that component and then export, just like I'm doing here. So I'm taking all the cannons into one component. I can call this fake cannon, and I then export that as an STL file. So I will, if I want to, I can then export. Wait a minute, why are you there? Oh yeah, I created, sorry. Remove, that's what I call it. Never mind about that. So I will make this part called, and this here is the ship. Ship and cannons, I know it's confusing, but we have this file, we have these two. We export these components as one file and this as another, and we get two STL files. Complicated? Well, I don't think that the idea is complicated. It's you have an A part and a B part, but the way how you create the A and B part are what I think is interesting and what is usually a bit more difficult for people to get hold of, really. So this is a scenario how you do it the simple way. Of course, there will be scenarios where you have to create like a, let's say a body, for example, and so on. So let's have a look at another scenario where we do something more practical, and I will show you how we can combine that. So join me in the second part, just coming up now, which I recorded before this. Don't be scared if I'm using another shirt and, you know, stuff like that. Alright, so just back here with the second part. So I just show you how the basic works with Fusion. I want to show you here, this is an old Rhino file. This was one of the, I'd say, pre-DSLR rigger. I mean, one of the first sketches I did, and you can see I have all my different files here. But what I do have also, which is kind of interesting, is I have these different steps of these different parts. So these actually originated from this video, episode 3. I'll link it somewhere around here, where I took I used a clay model. So this is clay, and I 3D scanned that, put it into Mesh Mixer, just clean it up a little bit, Then into Rhino, where I did basically just a lot of different lines around it. So this is a really simple way, old-fashioned way. There's better tools right now. But I used this was back in 2011, so very long time ago. I used this to create a basic shape that I then booleaned into a smooth shape. And that shape is now imported into Fusion 360 here. So here we have the original shape. I hope you can kind of get it. This is for my left hand, sorry, for my right hand. So this is where the thumb goes, and then my fingers kind of stretch over here. Let's see how we can add these together. Wow, I'm really sorry how much I'm jumping around. It's amazing, shirts everywhere. I kind of really lost stock when editing this movie, and I want to have it a little bit more easy. So again, as you just saw, this is the handle part, and I show you how I came this far, or at least in another video. But what I think is interesting here is if we look at, let's see, 40 millimeters. In this example, what I want to do is I want to have this in a soft material, and I want to have a hard material with the strong functions that I'm using in my rig. I mean, if you look here at the rig, you see that I have these parts that I can screw on, for example. So let's just check out this image. If we could get a big one. So you see here how I screw the rods together, and they kind of work well. And you see this is not what I want. I want to have a rod that I can screw on. So I want to have one part that attaches to this instead of having this whole annoying part here. And you still need to have them there. But anyway, I'm gonna stop slowing down and just get stuff done. So again, okay, so right hand, I will use it, okay, like that. I need to think, I want to have the rod in this direction. Awesome. So I'm just going to import one of my older files, because I have already done the mechanics, so why should I do it again? Smart function in Fusion 360. So let's see, I'm gonna drag it down. We need to reorientate it so it fits our needs. Well, we also want to make it printable, which might be the difficult part here. How do I make this printable? But let's just first start off with kind of getting it into place, or at least the basics of this model. Well, how do I get this to print? Maybe I should take in another of these parts. Or maybe that's one of the challenges that I'm facing. Yeah, let's take this part and make it work. Okay, so we got to import it there. What I also want to do is I want to break the link. I want to have this part, and I want to be able to change it. So already we see some issues here. The part is going through, but also I want to change appearances on this model, so it's a little bit easier for us to understand what's going on. Well, I think letter is a good. Ooh, looks ugly, but yeah, sure. Let's go with that. So this is now the part. Now the beauty here is that we need to activate this component. The beauty here is that since these are all solids, we can kind of remove some of the stuff. We don't need the bolts and nuts. We don't need to see that things. And let's see, this is the actual component that we want to work with. Let's get into the body, and we should be able to I'm just going to hide the other one. Should be able to remove some of the things here by just clicking, because I mean, don't we always love clicking? So there we go, one moved. That's not the way I want to remove it. So I'm just selecting, clicking delete, and let's do something like this. Can we press this? Sure, it's not pretty, but it works. Okay, is that enough? You get the idea. All right, great. Now we have the other part again. It's still not perfect. We can move this around a little bit. Let's move it down there. See how much it actually still interferes. So okay, let's work with this. We want to have like a hard piece down here. So I'm actually going to be a little bit quick and dirty here. What I also want to do is to create some sort of function here where everything goes in together. And I want this to go down quite far inside of the model. So yeah, I know I'm thinking like two-dimensional right now, but I think that's totally okay to do. Let's just hide this file so we can work more easily. I do want to remove this. And this body here, I want to remove you as well. And come on, sketches. I still want to use you. And we want to join that together. Are you following along what we're doing? We're just working here so we get a part and a B part. That's all we want to do. Now, just to be sure here that usually this hole might be a little bit easier, so I just want to continue that down into the model in case in case this one screws tight. I want to keep that. And I'd actually say that we're done now. We can let's activate this whole part again. Maybe I can just push this in a little bit. Maybe I can't. Maybe I can hide that one and then we can push it. Yeah, let's just push it in a little bit. Okay, so how about we do a section analysis here. So we take this part, it goes in, we have some clearance, we have this part, the brown part will be very soft and the green part will be hard. And yeah, I think it will be totally alright. So let's go with that. But as I talked about before, there's just a little bit of change I want to do here. I want to add some, let's say, just some patterns here. So I just want to like add a little bit of these. I don't want to do it too hard for the printer to actually do this kind of stuff, but let's just say we do something like that. I also want to round them off so it's a little bit better and easier for the machine to print. Okay, so what do we end up with? These ones here will extrude all the way there. You see, now we have something just keeping it together. So just in case, we could do like a funnel face down below so it won't stick off, but I hope you get idea at least. So the next step here is to just take this part. Let's see if we can do that. We'll take these two. So as I told you guys before, we take the main parts, we go to modify, we do a combine. Let's keep the tools and we'll cut away this part. Sorry, target body, tool bodies. Cut away. So now if I hide this part, we have the hole. And if we show it, we still have the old one. So we now have two STL files that we can export and go into the next phase, which is, well, what is the next phase? The next phase is printing, of course. So again, as I told you guys before, we need to save the parts as separate STL files. So I'll go up here to 3D prints. I'll push this part, export it as body 1. That's a suiting name. We'll repeat the process. We'll take this part, say body 2. And let's jump into a slicer. Alright, so we're now in the slicer for the BCN 3D Sigma, which I'm doing a review of right now. So if you haven't already done it, you should subscribe or check out my other videos. It will be there somewhere, or should be there somewhere soon. Otherwise, what we want to do now is that we'll just bring in the bodies. We can bring in both of them, like so. Ta-da! And then we click on one of them. Right click, sorry, and in Cura and BCN's Cura, what you do is that you do a dual extrusion merge, and they will, for some reason, ship the files off really far away, and that didn't actually work. Huh? Wait a minute. So we'll take in both parts. Let's just see here if we can do a dual extrusion merge. No. So I think I see what the problem here is. Just to make sure, I think that since we're using different coordinate systems with our components and bodies, we have to do something a little bit more special. So we need to take this body here, and we need to take it into and put it into the same body here as, sorry, I kind of forgot where all the bodies were. Put the both bodies in the same file, and this should be the same coordinate system. So let's just try that again. Okay, so we'll just clear the platform, we'll import them again. So body 1 and body 2. I can already see that they're looking a little bit better. So let's just do this here, right click, extrusion merge, now they fit together. So important notes, if you are in Fusion, you need to export the files from the same component, or at least the same space. Sorry, what's that called? Reference space or coordinate system. So inside another component, I suppose that will handle everything from another origin, which kind of screws things up. So that's really important to think about when having these components. All right, so there you see how you slice it. We can now take this part and of course maybe put it on the right side. So in theory, this should be printable. In theory. Oh, why can't you see anything? What? Why are you not seeing the Sigma? Are you seeing the Fusion? Yeah, I see the Fusion. Oh, sorry, there. Something screwed up. So now you see that this should be totally printable. Maybe this part will be a little bit difficult, but shh. You get the idea, right? So I hope that gave you an introduction into how to use Fusion 360 to model for dual extrusion. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that are a little bit more difficult. So especially when you come into more complex models that you want to do more three-dimensional merges. What you can do is still kind of the same thing. So let's take another scenario which is a little bit more complicated. So let us say that I am working on this file and I have these components which is let's just hide the wrists. So if we look at this part and I want to create some sort of like cover here, it's a little bit more difficult. Now let's just activate these components. We'll go into the bodies. And let's say that we want to do like a cover or one of these parts in this that has like a color scheme or something. Since this is an organic shape, it's a little bit more tricky. But what I can take is what we can do here is that we, for example, we make a thicken. Actually, I can't do that. We can, for example, design something here. So where's my sketch tools? First of all, sketch plane. Let's say this plane. And I can create some sort of, let's say like this. This is what I want. I will have to just work around a little bit here. I'm trying to create a shape here that in turn will be cut away. So just mirror these on that plane. We get a sketch that we can work with. This sketch would then be extruded. Now bear with me here. I'm gonna make a new body, but also, what? Wrong direction. Okay, I'm just gonna move that there. What I want to do now is that I will cut into this model. I will use, let's see here. I will just kind of eyeball this. So now we get this part that we will extrude, cut away. I want to cut away this one as well. So we end up with this part. If we now do an intersection between these two, we should have a new part. So we do a combine, this will be our body. We'll do an intersects. We'll use the tool. We get this part. And I want to make a new component of that. That's really important as well, so we can keep it. Okay, that's done. I will take this body here again. I will bring it back. I will remove this chunk of block. What I now have is the same scenario as before. So I now have a part here, and I have my base part. So again, let's go through here. Let's go to combine. We'll make a cut. We'll make a target. We won't need a new components, but we want to keep the tools. Okay, there you see. Now we have a part here, which we can remove, but we also have the main part. So let's just add some colors to this to make sure that you kind of get the idea of everything. Let's see, I want to add that to this body. No. Oh, I need to download it. Of course. And with the base model, we'll just take normal, I don't know, cloth, fabric, light brown. Very nice, very stylish. But you get the idea here now, right? That we took a complicated shape, we cut away the inside of it, we made an intersection, so we get what is the the overlapping volume, and we then use that new volume to cut away, just like we did before with the simple tools. So we now created like a stripe on this very fashionable shoulder rig parts, right? So this is one of the parts. This is super easily printed. We could even do, in this scenario, of course, we could do some sort of like strong part here that goes inside down there, and we'll do the rest in a Ninja Flex material or something. So you can do a lot of cool things here in using a dual extruder. And I think that has to be like the final part of this video. I've showed you a few different ways of doing it, but in the end, it's a lot of cutting away, a lot of thinking, a lot of adding parts inside, and just doing a lot of bodies. I mean, if you want to be a little bit smart, you can do cut tools and stuff like that, just to name them better, which didn't work for some reason. But yeah, I hope you learned something about this video and the way that I think when I'm doing dual extrusion prints, and I hope to show you some of the prints as well. Maybe this one will be printed in the VCN Sigma review. Hopefully I'll do something like that. And let me know if there's any other questions, if there's any ideas that arise when I did this movie. I know that people are wondering how to like use mesh mixer and stuff like that to take an STL file, because you don't always have the CAD files. So just like I did with the handle, I showed you that in the video. I'll link it down below, how I went from from a scan to Rhino to Fusion 360 and stuff like that. So I'll probably make an updated video about that as well. It's a long video, sorry. It kind of ends up being those kind of things. So again, I hope you enjoyed my very fashionable part of this Fusion 360 video. This was the part 3. There's 2 more parts that are for beginners for 3D printing that you can check out if you want to. And as always, please give this video a like. It really helps the channel. If you want to spread this into some groups, and if there's anyone asking, don't just spam it. If there's anyone asking for how to do dual extrusions, please share this video. Maybe they learn something. Maybe we can all kind of get better at printing, right? So enjoy your day. Have a good night. Have a good morning wherever you are. See you in the next video. Bye.